Sadika, good morning. Welcome to Newsline. It's Wednesday's edition, February the 5th of 2014. My name is Cholapansa Narula. In today's top stories, People's Democratic Reform Committee will reopen the Rama 8 bridge today. And in business news, Thailand's inflation rate in January was the highest in 6 months. But first, our headline. The Election Commission has opened a conference to listen to problems facing each electoral unit during the general election on February 2nd, while confirming readiness to organize a fresh voting if the recent election is nullified. The EC has opened a conference to listen to the problems, and the EC chairman, Kun Supachai Somjaran, with the participation of the directors of all the electoral units in 77 provinces. The objectives of the event were to acknowledge and gather obstacles in the officials' operations during the previous poll and to prepare for make-up elections in areas where voting was disrupted by protesters. The Election Commission chairman affirmed that the commission would try its best to arrange re-elections in all of the problematic areas within the time frame stipulated by the law. Nonetheless, he noted that the process could not be rushed as the EC would have to exercise utmost caution and ensure no violations of the electoral law. As for the question whether or not the February 2nd election would be voided, Kun Supachai said the answer would rest within the Constitutional Court's verdict. If the court decided to nullify the poll, he assured that the EC would be ready to arrange a new election. People's Democratic Reform Committee will reopen the Rama 8 bridge today, but will continue to blockade government offices. Mr. Suthep Turksuban, Secretary General of the People's Democratic Reform Committee, announced after meeting with key leaders of the PDRC that a decision had been made to reopen the Rama 8 bridge to reconnect the link between Bangkok and Thonburi and help ease the flow of the traffic for people, especially of nearby schools, to commute even more conveniently. He, however, said that the blockade of government offices will still continue without negotiation or talks with the government, nor the Centre for Maintaining Peace and Order, or CMPO. The Criminal Court is scheduled to deliberate on February 6 whether or not an arrest warrant will be issued for Pra Puttha Isara, a Buddhist monk who is also a core leader of the PDRC. A petition was recently submitted by investigative officers from the Thung Song Hong police station to the Criminal Court for its issuance of a warrant of arrest against Pra Puttha Isara, the politically active monk who has been spearheading the PDRC protest in Jangwatana area, allegedly led supporters to lay siege on the Laksi district office, which was being used as a polling station during the advance voting on the official election day. 3 police officers were summoned by the court for testimony, and according to the trio, the protesters surrounded the district office from January 25th till the 26th, and again from January 31st till February 2nd. Electoral staff were denied entry to the venue, and ballot papers could not be distributed to other polling booths, paralyzing the voting process in the area. After the hearing, the court scheduled its delivery of verdict for this February 6 at 1:30 p.m. The Ministry of Public Health has revised its plans to provide medical services to members of the PDRC after they gave up gathering at the Lat Pral intersection and the Victory Monument. According to Dr. Narong Apikun Wanit, Deputy Director General of the Department of Medical Services, or DMS, 13 medical teams comprising emergency response experts from Buriram and Ramathipati hospitals as well as other medical agencies have been assembled. Furthermore, Lertsin and Noparat hospitals will provide additional backup medical teams to be stationed in Pratunam and in front of Yumarat Tollway. 603 people have reportedly been injured as a result of the PDRC's political gathering since November 30th. 17 of them remain in hospital and 3 have just been discharged. However, 2 more patients were taken to Ratchawithi Hospital on Monday. The duo claimed that they had been attacked by the PDRC guards. Ministry officials have been trying to verify the claims. Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawat's assets were found to have increased by 56 million baht, while Suthep Thaugsuban's debts had increased by 276 million baht, and that information is according to the National Anti-Corruption Commission. In its latest disclosure of the assets of members of Parliament, which came about as Parliament had been dissolved and thus all MPs were considered to have left office, the NACC revealed its findings that Kun Yingluck Shinawat had 603 million baht in assets and 28 million baht in debts. Commerce Minister Bunsong Periyapirom, the ex-Commerce Minister, had 28 million baht in assets, and Deputy Agriculture Minister Nathawut Saikur had 33 million baht in assets. Democrat Party leader Apisit Wechachiwa's assets remain unchanged at 36 million baht. Former Surat Thani MP Suthep Thaugsuban's assets increased to 141 million baht, and his debts actually rose to 323 million baht. Rice farmers who have been blocking southbound Pechakasem Road in Ratchaburi have agreed to remove roadblocks after 2 days of protests. Local authorities and rice associations held talks with protesting farmers before the group allowed two-way traffic to resume on the southbound highway. Groups of rice growers from western and central provinces will, however, continue to block Ramatu Road at the Wang Manao intersection, Ratchaburi's Pak Thaw district, in protest of the government's delayed payments under the rice pledging scheme. The Land Transport Department earlier reported that shipments to and from the south face delays of about 5 hours due to the blockage of the Ramatu Road. And according to protest leaders, rice farmers in the lower part of the north are also planning to join those protesting in the Central Plains. The network plans to rally in Bangkok to further pressure the government to speed up rice payments. The Transport Ministry is keen on pushing Suvarnabhumi Airport to be ASEAN's product distribution centre. Minister for Transport Chachchhat Siripan revealed that the ministry was determined to build more cargo warehouses in Suvarnabhumi in order for the airport to be capable of distributing up to 3 million tonnes of products each year, up from the 1.7 million tonnes at present. Minister Chachchhat said as the volume of products waiting to be delivered seems to be increasing, it is a must that Suvarnabhumi expand its warehouses. In the first phase of the expansion project, the minister expects the airport to handle 2.4 million tonnes of cargo a year, adding that it will take 2 to 3 years for the airport to reach the target of 3 million tonnes. Lastly, the Transport Minister said the move could make Suvarnabhumi the centre for production distribution within the ASEAN region. And we'll now take a break. Up next, we'll have a look at the business news and also a roundup of yesterday's stock markets, particularly in the ASEAN region. Philippine and Malaysian shares underperformed the rest of Southeast Asia. Don't go away.
Open the world of information. Embrace public participation. Present Thainess to the world. New dimension of the government's public relations. The 80th anniversary of the Public Relations Department. Creative media for the society. Mobilizing Thailand towards the ASEAN community.
มนุษย์ทำลายสมดุลทางธรรมชาติและมนุษย์ก็เป็นผู้ประสบภัยพิบัติจากธรรมชาติร่วมสร้างอนาคตลดภัยพิบัติระดมพลังพลิกฟื้นคืนผืนป่าในทุกชุมชนทั่วประเทศ
For those who have Android smartphones, you can download a PRD News application by searching for PRD News English in Play Store. That way, you can stay up to date with the latest happenings in Thailand.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsline. Now to the business news. Deputy Prime Minister and Commerce Minister Niwatthamrong Bunsongpaisan plans to auction a new batch of 400,000 tons of pledged rice this week. The original target was set at 200,000 tons of pledged rice. Mr. Niwatthamrong said that in January, around 1 million tons of rice was auctioned, while the bulk of the rice being shipped to international markets. That's the amount of rice shipped to the international markets. The ministry will announce the terms of reference on February 6 for interested businesses and exporters to participate in the auction. Bids could be submitted on February 12. Initially, the government plans to release 100,000 tons of 5% broken white rice, 100,000 tons of jasmine rice, and 20,000 tons of fragrant rice. The Commerce Minister noted that the money received through the auction may help the government fund delayed payments to farmers in many provinces. Moving on, the Bank of Thailand has reported that the non-performing loans in the last quarter of 2013 remain at the same level as in the previous quarter. The BOT cited consumer reluctance to spend as they had deepened their credits and have to deal with the existing debts. According to the BOT data, Thailand's Financial Institute has a total of 267 billion baht worth of NPLs, which is 2.16% of all its lending. The figures also indicate that the amount of 595 million baht, that's a decrease from 2013's Q3. Net NPLs after deducting the reserve for bad and suspected bad debts is at 124 billion baht, an increase of 1.9 billion baht from the previous year's third quarter. The BOT stated commercial banks have a combined total of 258.9 billion bahts worth of NPLs, or 2.31% of all commercial banks lending, a decrease of 826 million from Q3 of last year. The commercial banks' net NPLs at the end of last year stood at 122.1 billion baht, an increase of 1.9 billion from the quarter before. Meanwhile, the National Bank pointed out that foreign banks have a rather low NPL figure when compared to local banks, citing only 6.6 billion baht of NPLs by the end of December, or 0.6% of all foreign banks lending. January's inflation rate is the highest in 6 months, thanks to consumer spending during the Chinese New Year. Deputy Permanent Secretary of Commerce Urawi Ngaurungrung, last month's General Consumer Price Index, or CPI, on inflation rose to 106.46 points, 0.42% higher than that of December 2013, and a jump of 1.93% year-on-year. That's the highest in 6 months since last August, 1.59%. The increase was attributed to food and non-alcoholic beverages price indices, which increased by 0.67%, along with the rising prices of poultry, seafood, pork, fruits and eggs during the Chinese New Year. The general CPI of food and non-alcoholic beverages last month increased 0.30% on the back of price hikes in fuel, electricity, cigarettes and liquor. She further said that this year's inflation rate would be between 2 to 2.8%, assuming that the annual GDP was at 3 to 5%. Dubai crude oil price was between 95 to 115 US dollars a barrel, and the baht was traded in the range of 29 to 34 baht against the greenback, and the government maintained its current policies on reducing the living expenses. And according to Thailand Textile Institute, or THTI, this year's textile export sector has a bright outlook thanks to the nation's advanced textile production technology. According to Kun Sutini Pupaka, the director of THTI, the industry produced $7 billion worth of products last year, expanding by 3.6%. She indicated that the figures comprise an 8% export growth and a 2% contraction in fabric sector. The latter suffered mainly because of the nation's ailing economy. The textile export, on the other hand, performed well as Thailand possessed competent textile production technology that enabled it to fulfill demands from new ASEAN markets, as well as recovering markets in China, Europe, and the US. Thailand and Indonesia are the only two ASEAN nations that have a one-stop service for textile, offering thread, clothes, and fabric production. While Indonesia excels in mass production, Thailand has an edge over the production technology and customization. Philippine and Malaysian shares underperformed the rest of Southeast Asia on Tuesday, pressured by foreign outflows after weak U.S. manufacturing data, while Thai stocks retreated after the February 2nd elections failed to resolve a political deadlock. The Thai SET index ended down 1.2% in thin trading on prospects of more political turmoil, as the opposition Democrat Party said it would seek a court ruling on whether Sunday's election was unconstitutional. The market racked up gains of more than 2% from Friday through Monday, helped in part by buying from domestic institutions, though foreign investors were net sellers during the period. Fitch Ratings said further prolongation or intensification of the 5-month political standoff could raise the risk of lasting negative effects on economic performance and financial stability relative to its rating peers. Meanwhile, Asian shares skidded on Tuesday as sentiment was weak after data showed U.S. manufacturing activity slowed sharply in January on the back of the biggest drop in new orders in 33 years. Indonesia's index closed down 0.8% at a one-week low. The Philippine main index dropped 2.2% to around 3 weeks low, while Malaysia slipped 1.4% to its lowest since October 2013. Foreign investors sold shares in the Philippines and Malaysia worth a net $24.5 million and $166 million, respectively. And next, let's have a look at the exchange rates and also some of the commodity figures.
Open the world of information. Embrace public participation. Present Thainess to the world. New dimension of the government's public relations. The 80th anniversary of the Public Relations Department. Creative media for the society. Mobilizing Thailand towards the ASEAN community.
เมื่อมนุษย์ทำลายสมดุลทางธรรมชาติแล้วมนุษย์ก็เป็นผู้ประสบภัยพิบัติจากธรรมชาติร่วมสร้างอนาคตลดภัยพิบัติระดมพลังพลิกฟื้นคืนผืนป่าในทุกชุมชนทั่วประเทศ
For those who have Android smartphones, you can download a PRD News application by searching for PRD News English in Play Store. That way, you can stay up to date with the latest happenings in Thailand.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsline. The Chiang Mai Passport Office is currently processing just 200 passport requests per day due to more than a month of closure of the Department of Consular Affairs headquarters in Bangkok. At least 1,000 people turned up at Chiang Mai Passport Office at Chiang Mai Provincial Hall to request for passports. However, the office was only able to process 200 queues a day, leaving most of the visitors frustrated. Many of the visitors, some have taken days off from work to get the passport, expressed great dissatisfaction to the officials. An official said the problem stemmed from the occupation of the government complex in Jang Watthana, Bangkok, that had disrupted the normal function of many state agencies. The Chiang Mai Passport Office was the only place to get passports in the northern region. And the Royal Irrigation Department has reported that the water levels in major dams are on a sharp decline stemming from severe drought, while farmers are urged to slow down their cultivation of off-season crops to conserve water. According to the RID's Water Watch and Monitoring System for Warning Center, as of January 31st, the combined amount of water stored at all major dams within the Chao Phraya River Basin stood at 13.11 billion cubic meters, approximately 53% of the total capacity, while the usable portion was at 6.41 billion cubic meters. The dams consist of the Phumipol Dam in Tak Province, Sirikit Dam in Uttaradit, Khwae Noi Bamrung Dam in Pitsanulok, and Pasak Cholasit Dam in Lopburi. Based on the RID's plan, 5.26 billion cubic meters of the reserve water is to be discharged to the residents of the Central Plains for the current dry season, which runs from November to April 2014. However, over 3.26 billion cubic meters, or 62%, has already been used thus far. With only 2 billion cubic meters of water remaining to be distributed, the RID is concerned whether the amount will suffice the demand during the drought season, which is expected to last for 3 more months. The department therefore pleaded with agriculturists to refrain from planting more off-season crops and to use water as sparingly and efficiently as possible. The Ministry of Public Health has reported that more than 2,500 cases of chickenpox were found last month, while advising the public to be wary of an outbreak of the disease until March. Permanent Secretary for Public Health Dr. Narong Sahamethapat stated that the cool weather during January to March of every year was conducive to the spread of varicella zoster virus, which causes chickenpox. He thus encouraged all to be on guard against a highly communicable disease, as anyone with low immunity could be infected, especially children under the age of 1. Based on statistics in January, up to 2,565 patients were diagnosed with chickenpox during the first 19 days of the month. Last year, more than 48,000 cases were reported, most of which were amongst children aged between 5 and 9, followed by 4-year-olds and under. In children, initial symptoms usually include low fever, fatigue, and loss of appetite, while adults would experience high fever, body aches, skin rashes, and blisters. If any of the symptoms are detected, medical attention should be sought immediately in a bid to prevent an outbreak. And the Project for Panda Research and Display in Thailand has announced that giant panda Lin Hui has already miscarried after its progesterone level dropped to 0 and blood clots and tissue were found. The project's deputy director, veterinarian Paripat Siri Arunrat, said the panda's progesterone level had been lowered to 0 and it had no longer showed signs of pregnancy since late January. The doctor confirmed the miscarriage had nothing to do with the panda's health and it was normal for pandas to miscarry. The deputy director said the project would keep on trying to inseminate Lin Hui during its next mating season. And Trang Province will soon hold this year's Underwater Wedding Festival, the 18th of its kind. Somsak Parisutto Hemthanon, governor of Trang Province, announced the holding of the Underwater Wedding Festival. The event will take place between the 10th and 12th of this month and will be participated by 31 couples from Thailand and also from around the world. The Underwater Wedding Festival in Trang has become world-renowned and is being held for the 18th time this year. Couples will dive in the Andaman Sea off the coast of Trang Province to conduct registration of their marriage underwater. Before the diving, the wedding procession is based on traditional Thai procession. The bride and groom are dressed in traditional Thai garments. Khanmak engagement ceremony is conducted. Water will be poured into the hands of the couple and sticky rice is fed to the couples in the belief of making their love more secure and long-lasting. Interesting. And that's it for today's edition of Newsline. If you have any comments or suggestions, please email them to us. And our email address is newsline.nbt@gmail.com. We'll now take you to the northern province of Chiang Rai to witness the peach blossoming up there. I'm Cholapan Sanarula. Have a good day. Swadee ka.